It has only been 13 years until the sequel to 2009's Avatar will hit the cinemas in December 2022. 13 years in which director James Cameron certainly had an interesting time, which he spent on extensive submarine dives to the Mariana Trench, as well as writing and producing other films, some of them cool and innovative, others a little weird. Oops. But what James Cameron did not do in those 13 years was to take advantage of the massive wave of Avatar 1's success and keep up building his Avatar saga. With Avatar: The Way of Water, we get a sequel to a film that was a novelty and impressive in 2009, but which has gradually faded in people's memories due to the lack of follow-up films. Which is quite sad actually, because Avatar had the potential to be the next big franchise. At least in 2009, but it's 2022 now, and the technology has advanced quite a bit. Okay, the technology could be very advanced if one had the budget and the will to generate great images. The possibility are definitely there. And it's also not like every modern film looks like. There are also many examples of how CGI can look really good, fortunately. My point is, a pretty important reason why the first Avatar film was one of the highest grossing films of all time is because the images shown to the viewers were groundbreaking in 2009. But maybe the people in 2022 have become a little desensitized to CGI due to the CGI overload in modern movies. I'm not saying it's impossible to really impress viewers with CGI. I'm just saying that it could be a lot harder than it was 13 years ago. And then there is a tiny problem as well. Nothing big. It will only decide if Avatar 2 will be a box office hit or a huge flop. What? With production costs of 350 to 400 million US dollars, the film is one of the most expensive films ever made. And according to Cameron himself, the film has to gross 2 billion US dollars at the box office to cover all the expenses for the film, including cameras, marketing, etc. $2 billion. That would put the film in the top 6 highest grossing films ever made. With 2 billion in box office revenue, it would make more than Spider-Man: No Way Home. I mean, don't get me wrong, James Cameron is probably one of the best directors Hollywood has ever had, making films that will go down in history forever. But calculating on $2 billion at the box office is pretty optimistic. The whole thing is almost comparable to modern dating life. If you go on a Tinder date expecting to find a partner to marry, chances are you will be disappointed. I mean, I know people who've had success, but for most, it just didn't work out that way.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Okay, sorry, I digress. What I'm saying is, 2 billion is a lot of money. And in Avatar, there won't be any unexpected cameos from 2 Spider-Mans or William Dafoes to make even more people go see the movie. What are your thoughts on Avatar 2? Do you think it will be a box office hit or flop? Please let me know in the comments down below. And then there's another problem that could affect the box office result. The first Avatar was a novelty because it carried the audience off into a world that had never been seen before, which James Cameron undoubtedly built brilliantly. But still there are quite a few plot holes in the story that, especially while rewatching the film, aren't quite so unobvious. So what was the story about? An ex-marine who gets to live with a native tribe, initially only with the goal of building trust with the natives and gathering information for the bad military/corporate guys, but then after some time he realizes that the people he works for are planning to wipe out the whole tribe for mineral resources and are willing to destroy nature in the process. So our hero joins in with the natives and becomes fully integrated in the tribe and fights with them against the invaders. In addition, he succeeds in winning the heart of the chief's daughter, and in general he can do a lot of things a lot better than the natives can. But wait a minute. A white man comes to the natives and shows them how things are really being done? Isn't that almost a little racist? Also, wouldn't it have been nice to make the characters a little more three-dimensional? There's the ex-marine, Jake Sully, bound to his wheelchair, but do we really get to know him as much as we would like to? What exactly are we learning about him? His inner workings, his inner fight, his past, his motivations. Same thing with the villain, Colonel Quaritch, or Neytiri, or the Na'vi people in general. They're all just there, they're the way they are, but we are never really shown why exactly. Almost like on a Tinder date, when one of the two talks the whole time about an unimportant topic from work, and even after 2 hours, you really don't have the feeling at all that you really got to know the person.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Why is Jake simply accepted by the natives after 5 minutes, and why are all their secrets simply revealed to him? Why does Neytiri really fall in love with him? Why does everyone know that Jake has a big heart from the beginning, but is basically never really shown in the first half of the movie? But James Cameron is a smart man. He knows what it takes to captivate an audience enough that the inconsistencies in the script seem not to be so important after all, because it's somehow forgotten with all the emotion the audience feels watching the movie. I mean, let's think back to Titanic. Why couldn't Leonardo DiCaprio get up on the plank as well? But how many of us really noticed that there was actually enough space the first time we saw Titanic because we were so sad that he died? And something similar happened at Avatar. They gave the Na'vi those big, innocent eyes to give them very obvious childlike characteristics so that one can't help but wanting to protect them. And with the very graphic, tragic destruction of the world, which, without question and without being able to do anything about it, touches the audience on a very emotional level, so it can't help but be 100% invested in the final battle. Although despite the almost 3 hours runtime of the film, we didn't really learn much about the tribe as a whole. Despite all of this, James Cameron managed to create a very impressive film. But will people still be able to identify enough with the world of Pandora and the characters in it to actually go to the cinema for it? And then there's another issue that could possibly affect Avatar 2's performance at the box office. There's a chance that a lot has happened since 2009, not only in the world, but also in the production studios. 20th Century Fox is now a part of the Walt Disney Company, the same company that has made it its mission to reinterpret and politicize every franchise that has ever existed. The same company that has made it its mission to make the world a better place. A mission that is not bothering fans at all. There were political messages in Avatar 1 too, far from subtle, but James Cameron still managed to weave them into an exciting, gripping story that doesn't even remotely come across as preachy as some of the modern masterpieces.
You've got to do better, Senator. You've got to step up.
But 13 years is a long time, and there's a good chance James Cameron's perspective has changed too. This became particularly obvious in a recent interview with The Hollywood Reporter. In this interview, for example, James Cameron describes the hormone testosterone as a poison that, quote, you have to slowly work out of your system. How he's planning on doing that from a medical standpoint, without destroying both his libido and energy, or getting man boobs, is hard to say. But if the man who brought Terminator to the screen, think about T-800 or T-1000, where the T could stand for both Terminator and testosterone at the same time, if this man, whose films were basically based to a large extent on testosterone up until now talks like that, and this attitude should also be reflected in his work, even if it sounds mean, I hope that he's referring to a personal matter and not to Avatar 2, even if testosterone has recently been dispensed with in Disney productions to a large extent. But every person, and probably every film too, needs a little bit of testosterone to survive. Especially when you want your movie to make $2 billion. Furthermore, Cameron also addresses the issue of environmental protection, which has pretty much been the core of the Avatar story so far. He talks about how a destroyed tree made the audience cry in Avatar 1 and hopes that in 2022, audiences will be even more environmentally conscious. Yes, that's right. After 13 years, the people are undoubtedly much more sensitive to environmental protection, thank God. In 2009, probably hardly anyone really thought about their carbon footprint and the kilometers they covered by car or maybe even by plane. And was there even already waste separation in 2009? See, James, people tend to forget stuff after 13 years. The only question is whether James Cameron's assumption can also be applied to movies. Just because people are much more knowledgeable about environmental protection today, does that also mean that they primarily want to watch films that deal with that subject? Especially when they are confronted with the subject non-stop in the media, and the films nowadays, especially from certain studios, contain more and more political messages anyway. James Cameron also says that maybe his film shouldn't be primarily about entertainment anymore. Well, let's see how the audience will react to the film. Let's see how it goes. There's a good chance James Cameron will tell just as gripping a story as he did in the first Avatar 13 years ago. After all, it's James Cameron. The only question is, would a gripping story alone be enough to get enough people going to see the movie to make $2 billion in times of oil and gas price explosions and double-digit inflation rates? But maybe there will still be a cameo appearance after all. A new Indiana Jones movie, for example, will hit the cinemas in 2023. Also from Disney Studios. Maybe that's what the audience really wants. Perhaps a multiverse will be introduced that will allow...
What the fuck are you talking about?
If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you next time.